Welcome to this Tech Talk. Today we're going to talk about one of the hottest topics right now, and that is object storage. We see and hear a lot about object storage, and since our own solution, CloudBrick Tier 2, is built on object storage, we feel pretty confident in presenting you with new ideas on how to use it, and also how to get the best return of investment doing so. Our CloudBrick Tier 2 has been a huge success since we released it last autumn, with this availability to provide a private cloud solution on-prem, which also supports your modern workload and of course comes with the highest security available. The guys doing all the talking today is me, Johan Tam. I'm a solution enabler at Cristie Nordic, and with me I have my colleague Christian Peterson from Cristie Nordic and Ole Petter Jonsson from Cloudian. Just quick guidelines for this session. Everyone in the audience will be anonymous and muted during the whole session. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the chat box and the Q&A windows. Thank you. And just a brief look at the agenda for today. We're going to take you through this Tech Talk step by step, starting with a basic overview of S3 and what it is, and then we're going to keep on deep in diver into the use cases and examples and what you can do with it and how to secure cluster. And with that, I want to hand over to Christian. Please take it away.
Thank you, Johan. So first of all is that to take a look on S3 and object storage. Maybe people doesn't really understand the difference between file storage and object storage, because when you're uploading data to S3, you maybe just see a file. But the whole magic behind S3 is that it's not only a file, it's actually including a lot of metadata. So if you compare a file storage with S3, is that a major thing is that you have full description of the file together with the file, not only just a single plain file. And the difference between block and file storage is probably more common, where you're actually storing data as blocks or as files that you can read as not regular files. And you have a blog in our Cristie Tech blog webpage where you can read more between all the three different scenarios actually. Another common thing is that the block, actually S3 storage, can also be read using RESTful APIs. And if we're looking on use cases of this to get more deep dive and more knowledge about what can I use S3 storage for, not only how it works. So we have different scenarios. So if you're looking on a backup piece, Ole, I want to get you involved in this as well. So if you look on backup, you can using multiple backup softwares like Veeam, Commvault, Rubrik, IBM, Veritas, and Dell EMC Networker, for example. I don't know, do you want to get more deep dive into the backup piece?
Yeah, so most backup applications today support to archive data to an object storage of some sort and in multiple different ways. So almost every backup software out there can support to archive data to S3 as of today. They can do.
Yeah, and also is that not only archive, they can probably pushing data as well directly to S3 and use that as a storage device instead of expensive RAID disk, for example. Is another scenario that we see on the backup pieces.
Absolutely.
And video content and all that. That's
yeah. So many kind of companies we all use every day, like Netflix, the streaming services in general, are based on object storage. So object storage is really good for streaming data, but also for things like video surveillance with, for example, Milestone to gather massive loads and stream massive loads of video surveillance from stores or CCTV in general, and store that in a cost-efficient way and be able to stream that out again through an object storage.
And also I see companies like pop-ups like VideoSpine coming out and natively supporting S3 storage out of the box, basically. Big data then, Ole.
Big data, of course, we see that data only grows. So everything now is almost a smart device triggering and generating some data out on the edge. Look at smart homes, look at smart cities, roads, sports, for example. All of this generates analytics data that you need to store, basically. And Object Storage is the perfect storage platform for those type of data, because the applications, when you're looking into analytics and stuff like that, like Hadoop, Splunk, you can look at Elasticsearch, they are natively created to run as a cloud application using S3 storage for their main storage platform mainly.
Yeah, and I also want to say, it's probably named all of them, but as I said, it's a perfect because S3 can grow to humongous of data amount, and that big data needs a lot of data, really. And containers, I want to take the lead here quickly, and a lot of container platforms supporting S3 as a storage persistent volumes, like VMware, Tanzu, Red OpenShift, Rancher, and so on. And most of them actually is supporting S3 today natively. And if I don't remember wrong, Ole, Cloudian just announced the support for VMware vSAN as well, didn't they?
Yeah, so what we can do is that we can deploy a Cloudian cluster based on VMware Tanzu and using vSAN as the underlying storage. So you can run your entire DevOps environment, for example, based on VMware Tanzu with Kubernetes and using the vSAN storage as the persistent storage for that object storage.
And on top of that, there's a lot of other applications out there, like Nextcloud. You can using regular file share and other applications out there. And I think we're going to more deep dive into it in the further slides. But basically, there is no showstopper to using S3 storage versus block and file. So if you take a look, Johan, have you got any questions so far?
No questions so far, but please don't hesitate to ask them in the Q&A chat box. So you can continue, guys.
Thanks. So if you're looking on real use cases and real examples, so I probably want to give you the opportunity to start. So video is, what do you have any real use cases that we can use an example during this video?
Yeah, so for example, digital video archive. So let's say you have massive amount of video and the only metadata you have on that is basically when was the video recorded, when was it captured. But with object storage, you are able to generate your own metadata as well. For example, what is the content of the video? What's the actor's name if it's a movie or a TV series? And there's actually tools out there that can use AI to analyze the contents of the video and put that metadata in, and you can put that into the object storage system together with the video files itself, and you can do smart searches and smart archives. Other things is, of course, CCTV, like we mentioned. We can do streaming services. And I believe, Christian, that you internally also have a use case with video with object storage as well.
Yeah, so like internally in Cristie, we're using object storage to distributing all our content to all our TV screens that we have in our offices. And that is an easy way for us to just pushing out data. So that means every single person just uploads a file to an S3 and automatically deploy to every single TV everywhere. So if you want to do, let's say, internal commercial of TechTalk, for example, I just upload a slide into our S3 storage and it get automatically deployed to all the TVs. And it's so simple. So it's like just typical website, upload a file, and then you're done. And I think I have another use cases, for example, is that if you maybe see recording of like football or paddle or and other sports that are not professional sports, you maybe want to, they may probably using S3 storage behind it. That's the uploading, live streaming from that video camera up to an S3 cloud, and then you can sort of reformat that video to a smarter format to deploy to every single smart device out there, like an iPad or iPhone or whatever. And they're normally using S3 and object storage behind it to get that efficient. And that is really, really nice way to work with, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Iftar file sharing, Ole, do you want to start with that as well?
Yeah, so of course everybody know the traditional file sharing that you did with a NAS device, basically. So you could do kind of the similar thing with object storage. It looks and feel a bit different, but everybody is used to using OneDrive or Box.com or Dropbox. So with object storage, you can really easily build your own Dropbox kind of lookalike solution for files you can share workloads with, for example, applications like Storage Made Easy, Nextcloud, OwnCloud, and multiple others as well. So with that use case, you can basically create a huge internal cloud that you are in full control of your data and the sharing of that data, and distribute that across branch offices, have many people in different places on Earth working together on projects, easily sharing data between them, and be able to localize all of this data in a really secure and cost-efficient way as well. But you can also do integration with NAS devices that support S3 to archive data from NAS and be on backend storage for that NAS device, for example. Or you have cloud-ready NAS devices like Nasuni and stuff like that as well that integrate with S3. So with file sharing, you really isn't a limit on what you can do with object storage.
And another nice thing with S3 storage and use that as a file sharing is that if is a service provider, you can then sharing the same disk to multiple clients at the same time to be more storage efficient than the regular Windows file servers that you deploy in one, a single VM per client, and the VM has their VMDK files, and even if you're using, easy tiering and file compression and so on, that means you still need to over deploying disk size to every single customer, and that means every single customer sort of they know they have an amount of storage and they can start working with it. And even if you think that now it's actually is start by filling up your SAN, that will cause some issues for you. By using S3, it could be actually much easier and without scaling out much faster. That means when you're adding more disk into your S3, it will be shared to all the customers at the same time, and the one who's asking for more storage at just that time will get the storage first, and only the pieces they ask for. That means the actual file size then. So I mean, using S3 storage as file sharing is probably much clever and more cost effective than regular VMs. And I know that in Cloudian you have your hyperfile that could be sharing files as NAS lookalike, and that will be really efficient for the customer to using, because you only pay for using for basically.
Absolutely, and since object storage it came down from the cloud started with it first, and now it's on-prem as well. It's of course multi-tenant. So for service providers, you will have a full multi-tenant platform to share across multiple organizations, for example.
Should we go on?
Yes.
So smart homes. Do you want to start as well, Ole?
Yeah, so we have all seen it for a couple of years now. Probably most of us have something like Philips Hue at our homes, or smart ovens or devices. So all of these devices kind of generate massive amounts of data. And if you take that in a bit bigger scale than just in your homes, looking at cross cities, cross roads and stuff like that is a huge amount of data that's being generated. And you need to make some kind of value of that data. You want to analyze that, for example, power consumption. So here in Norway, where I'm based, all the kind of power boxes in the homes are sending data home to the power company, and they can do analytics and billing and all that kind of clever stuff based on your usage. And of course, that's running on S3 storage and object storage as well, because they need to store massive amounts of unstructured data to be able to analyze and create value of that data they are gathering. So we see that a lot overall with IoT devices, smart homes, smart cities. We see it on the oil platform, shipping industry, everywhere basically is generating data now these days.
And I also want to add that, for example, if you have created, if you're using your own surveillance camera, for example, that you can using S3 storage to just save that data to an object storage directly. That means you keep an archive of your files. Later, in the same way as you use like a GoPro cam, for example, that you can save those images or photos or movies directly to an S3 to save it much more cheaper. And also tagging that data, that means you know when that file was created, how it looks like and so on. And that will create a lot of use cases just for that small pieces. And I just come out from another meeting lately, Ole, that's, for example, if you now these days when you're building, regular buildings in cities, they want to try to make the buildings more smarter, like connecting all the fire alarms together in the entire building, so that if they start being fired in one apartment, they notify everyone else straight away. But that also can use S3 storage behind it to make sure they're keeping data and tracks of when did it, the fire alarm starts, how did it start, and so on, and what kind of metadata behind that smoke? Is it, someone just frying on hot dogs, or could it actually be a real fire and so on? So there's a lot of use cases just in your single home to actually using object storage.
Absolutely. And let's say that fire alarm, that will probably have some sensors to see if that smoke is toxic, for example. You need to log that data as well.
Yeah. So there's so many things in just your home that could be using object storage, and that could be saving data into a smart cloud storage, basically. So if you're a service provider, this is a perfect moment to create your own service that are supplying cloud native storage to that kind of devices, basically. Do you want to add something on that?
No, I think that's putting it in a great perspective.
All right, cool. So smart healthcare. So healthcare is probably one hot topic that a lot of people are talking about. Do you want to start this, Ola?
Yeah, and again, it comes down to IT devices and analytics here as well. So these days we do a lot of COVID testing and research on coronaviruses, for example. This generates huge amount of data. Those data are needed to be shared across borders, across institutes that do that kind of science on that data. So object storage is the perfect platform for that, of course. But also what we are seeing is here in Norway and in the Nordics and the rest of the world is that the hospitals itself getting smarter. Let's say you are out good taking a walk, you fall over, your Apple Watch sends a ping directly to the hospital. The hospital or the ambulance come and get you. You get admitted. Maybe you have a broken leg. They do the X-rays. The X-rays need to be saved somewhere and cost effective and possibility to be shared easily. And also the beds and kind of equipment at hospitals is also getting smarter. So if you fall out of your bed, for example, it will trigger an alarm. It will, for example, measure your vitals and your breath, for example. all of these logs are generated, and probably while you're laying there, you're probably watching Netflix or something like that on your in-hospital bed TV as well, getting streamed by object storage as well. So again, healthcare is really leveraging object storage technology to get smarter, provide better services to us as a consumer.
Yeah, and I can actually also say that I heard lately that for example, X-rays pictures. So if you are a biomedical analytic person in the hospital and want to take pictures, samples of whatever it is, let's say a tumor or whatever sample it is, basically, that generates a lot of data and a lot of pictures and a lot of information. And to save that to an object storage together with tagging will enable so many features in the healthcare that could take healthcare to the next level and be much, much smarter and more efficient. So that basically means that using that and auto tagging or auto analyzing every single picture quicker, much quicker with AI, and that will make incredible features for healthcare, and also make it probably more cost effective to helping the doctors to actually finding small pieces in the pictures than actually can do today. So that is the really nice function.
Absolutely, and this is critical data as well. So our health is important for everybody, so you need that data to be stored, of course, securely, but also privately, and so it doesn't go away and the wrong people get hand of it. So that's why it's really important for healthcare to have their local kind of object storage platform and not use the kind of big clouds out there sending data to places they shouldn't send data, basically.
And another thing is that if you're keeping your personal record on S3 storage, that means you can use like chatbots or other AI technologies basically to helping for, let's say, quicker online 24/7 healthcare Q&As basically. So everyone can call in to whatever hospital you want to, and that chatbot will actually read your documentation, and that means that chatbot can basically answer a few quick questions or helping you to auto generate subscription for your medical or whatever. So using S3 storage that will enable so many features to share the same data to be so much smarter and be more proactive than maybe today, probably.
Absolutely.
Do you want to add something else, Ola?
I think we're good here at this stage.
Yeah. So backup, do you want to start or do you want me?
Probably you, Christian. So you're the backup specialist there. So go ahead.
Yeah. So backup is probably one of the main features, as we earlier stated out, is a lot of people using S3 storage as archiving for backup. And that could be a nice feature because if we're looking on the disk that normally the backup software using is probably more expensive. And that causing that enterprises or service providers only saving data for, let's say, 30 days. That's it. And if you get a ransomware attack or something like that, they have probably already noticed that you have a backup window saving on 30 days only. But by using S3 storage, you can archive data into an S3 storage and sort of warm protect that data. That basically means that you can write it once, but read how many times you want to. And you can save that data for much, much longer than 30 days to keeping secure, both for archive reasons, but also for legals or ransomware protection. So if you get a ransomware attack, you have the data for at least more than 30 days that you can restore the data and make sure you can restore everything. Do you want to hook in anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing object storage kind of brings the value in with backup is that traditionally you have you have your primary backup site, you have your secondary backup site, maybe you have your offsite copy to tape. So with the object storage as an archiving tier for your backup system, you can build that as a geo-distributed setup across multiple data centers and with failure tolerance, so you can lose an entire data center and still be able to restore your data. So even if your main data center burns up or you have a ransomware attack or something like that, you can still reach that data from another location. It's still online. It's not offline like you used to have with tapes. As soon as you take a tape out of the tape robot, you're basically at risk because of temperatures and stuff like that. This is this online data all the way that's stored really secure, ransomware protected if you want to, so we can't change or delete that data for the duration of the retention. So it's a really good complement to backup for bringing the cost down on backup, of course, but also provide extra security to your backup infrastructure.
And I think also is that by using S3 storage together with your backup, as I said, you mentioned a little bit having in multiple data center basically, and that is a really nice feature that let's say you're putting data in every single data center, so you have 3 sites, for example. And that means when you're backing up the data locally to a local backup device, let's say in this case, in this picture, we're using Rubrik, but if you're backing up locally, push the data into the cloud, you can literally just read that data from any sort of site anyways. It doesn't really matter if the entire site goes down. You make sure the data is replicated to all the 3 sites automatically in the background using the eraser coding that you have in your object storage. Do you want to add something else, Ole?
Yeah, so for service providers, again, it's a really good use case to create really good backup as a service product for customers out there. So not every customer anymore has the funds or personnel to kind of operate huge backup environments. So we see more and more providers providing backup as a service. And a combination between a good backup application that can talk to an S3 object storage and an S3 object storage will bring a really good and cost-effective and secure solution to the customers. So it's really popular on that use case.
And Kubernetes, I really like this one. Well, let's take the lead. I don't even ask you. So first of all, Kubernetes is, as a lot of people know, is an orchestration for container platforms. But basically, Kubernetes, I see a lot of installation only using like one storage platform for the Kubernetes. So they only using, let's say, VMware, vSphere storage, or vSAN in the background as the only storage. But a nice function is that you can create multiple storage classes in Kubernetes. I mean, even here you can create like, let's say, one gold storage class that are using a true flash-based storage using, SAN or whatever, based on NVMe and so on. But you can also creating everything on object storage, so let's say bronze, for example, and that help you out to not using expensive flash storage for every single container, and only use that for the most recent containers that need it. Like, let's say, databases that run in containers maybe want to have quick and fast storage like Flash, but also for regular containers like stateless containers, they maybe only use an object storage. And that means you can have much more scalable and more SLA-driven Kubernetes environment by using object storage combining with Flash storage, for example. And do you want to get deeper down into how Cloudian is working with VMware vSAN, or?
Yeah, so we already talked a bit about it, but we are one of the first vendors out with supporting to deploy our object storage hyperstore on a Kubernetes-based environment with Tanzu, with using vSAN that's in your VMware host as the storage platform for that object storage. So instead of buying other nodes to building out huge object storage environment, you can build it on your already existing VMware platform. So if you have Tanzu, you can actually, as of today, go into the Tanzu UI. You will find Cloudian Hyperstore. You can push a button. After 5-10 minutes, you will have a Cloudian Hyperstore object storage system up and running that can provide storage for, of course, your Kubernetes environment, but also other applications as well. So it's really good for kind of DevOps and small web apps and stuff like that. If you are looking into the big kind of backup use cases, you're probably better off that with buying some other hardware nodes and building a solution for that. But for kind of new modern applications that don't have those kind of massive storage needs that you can fit into your vSAN environment, it's really perfect to do that. And the other thing we also have is that we have our own operator for Kubernetes, so you can manage the object storage from, for example, the Rancher, Kubernetes Basic, and so on. And I'm actually running that on 2 Raspberry Pis at my home for my home lab, just to do testing with different kind of Kubernetes orchestration out there, and testing how object storage actually can integrate and work with Kubernetes.
That's actually, I was supposed to ask that one. Didn't you have your own Kubernetes environment in your home lab, basically? But yeah, as I said, Kubernetes can be using as object storage in multiple ways, but use it as a storage class device for your persistent volumes is a perfect use. And also, if you want to create your own Docker hub scenario, for example, if you want to keep all your builds, in-house, you can. That is perfect for object storage because they can be huge, especially now when you start using Windows containers, for example. So that is a perfect use for object storage. You want to add something else, Ola?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So Johan, do you have any questions so far?
Yes, I do. I got a question here for you guys. What kind of protocol is needed to talk to S3? Is it fiber or what is it?
Ola, you want to take that?
Yeah, so that's a bit of the difference with object storage and S3 that we are specifically talking about now. So object storage have multiple different kind of protocols itself. So S3 is the most common. That's of course Amazon that developed. And at Cloudian, we are 100% Amazon S3 native, so we only running S3. And S3 is basically an API. So object storage, you don't access it through kind of fiber channel or iSCSI or NFS or SIF, but you access it through APIs over HTTP and HTTPS. So it's basically port 80 and port 443 that you communicate from your application to reach your storage. So storage over HTTP, HTTPS, to put it simply.
Okay.
Any other questions, anyone?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
So use code for S3, and that's probably my topic then. And one thing is that for using S3, you can use multiple different languages like Bash, PowerShell, Python, Golang, I think even C and C# and so on. There's a lot of different codes out there that can using S3, and most of them already have modules already written that could be basically imported and used for. And if we're looking, for example, at Python that I'm normally developing, and I like Python, it's very simple to work with. To actually upload a file to an S3 bucket using Python, literally it's just 2 lines in this code that are being using, and on the second line from the top you have like imported Bodo3, and that library is helping us to load all the functionality talked to Amazon S3 storage, and that means we can also talk into our Cloudbrick Tier 2 or Cloudian, and the last piece to actually upload the real file, if you're looking in the below, you see try then response equal to S3 client, blah, blah. That is actually the magic happening when you upload your file. So it's not really a lot of code, it's just a lot of features in there to just get error coding, basically. And the nice feature with uploading is that you can also add metadata into it. And metadata means that you can say that, okay, I'm uploading a picture. This picture has a different sort of colors, or if it's actually a picture of me, for example, or it is including a bird or whatever. So you can describe the pictures in a lot of different words. And that means when you start doing analyze on those pictures, you can actually then sort of filter out already in the beginning before you downloading the file to actually get out the information, so you get the right pictures for your analytics. You can also add in permissions, so that means you can say that this file will be public, that everyone can read it, or you can give permissions that only that person or only that application can read the file, but everyone else in the organization can overwrite the file, for example. So that means you can put a lot of information already into the file when you upload it. In that case, that will be so much simpler to secure your environment and also make it correct in an easy way. And if we're looking at the downloads is probably say that, oh, okay, it was a few lines for uploading, but how hard is it download the file? So basically, it's just three line of code. So you import the same library, but you just have like S3 download file, and then specify the file, and you download the file basically. So it's so simple to include the code. And if you're looking on other languages, I guess it's as simple as Python, but it's really simple to including and using S3 storage in your code to save all your data, basically. Ola, do you want to add something, or do you think I covered most of it?
You covered most of it, and absolutely, we have a lot of clients out there that writing their own code for using with object storage, and basically all new applications that getting developed by today is using object storage in some way or form. So it's really a community out there as well. You will find a lot of free things and online.
Yeah. Johan, have you any questions so far on the code section?
Yes. What does AWS CLI mean?
Ola, do you want to
Yeah, so AWS CLI, so command line interface is what CLI stands for. So that's Amazon's SDK for command line tool working with S3 object storage. And since Cloudian is S3 native storage, you can use that SDK natively and work with Cloudian object storage just like you work with Amazon provided object storage in the cloud as well. So if you already have some tools that you have developed to use with Amazon S3 and moving over to Cloudian or Cloudbrick through Cristie, you can use that same code to do the same operations on that system as well.
And also, if you, let's say, using Bash or Bash, for example, that could be a really simple way to just start utilizing, S3 storage by using the AWS CLI client, basically. So if you sorry, but if you're using like FTP or SFTP, whatever, when you're uploading files in your scripts, to just using AWS CLI that will do exactly the same thing, and you can then replace those commands to start using object storage instead.
Absolutely. Let's say you have a Linux box that generates a lot of logs, for example, access logs or something like that, and you want to store that somewhere safe and localized. You can just create a script, include a upload of the directory directly to an S3 bucket. It probably would take you 2 minutes to write that code.
Yeah. Any more questions, Johan?
No. Thank you.
So security, Ole, shows yours.
Yeah, so security is of course important. That's number one. We see a huge amount of ransomware attacks all over the world, basically, and this is security from the Cloudian perspective. So of course we are an enterprise object storage platform, so security is important for us as well. Here you can say an overview of some of the security features we have in the platform, and we are going to go a bit deeper down on some of them here today, actually. So first off, we already touched a bit on it. So verb, write once, read many. So Amazon a couple of years ago developed an API called S3 Object Lock, and that's basically what Worm is. So that's the API from the S3 stack we use to Worm protect data. And when you protect the data with a Worm policy, it basically says that after you have uploaded this object to your bucket, we will apply a policy for it that, for example, this data cannot be changed or deleted for 30 days or a year or 10 years. So it's a really good way to restrict kind of bad employees or ransomware attacks or somebody in general to harm your data. And it's fully API based. We see more and more backup vendors are integrating this into their platform. For example, Veeam and Commvault can do this and talk to Cloudian and use Cloudian as a backup storage device, and natively apply that Worm policy as well. And of course, if you have kind of rules within your company that you need some legal hold functionality, you need to protect against ransomware, you maybe have some compliance certifications that you need to fulfill, a good Worm storage is really important. So this is, of course, one of the number one security features in a Cloudian platform. And if you go to the next one, I think we have even more detail of it. So this protection can be done in two modes as well. We have the compliance mode and the governance mode. So compliance mode is basically after we've written the object, you are not able to delete it at all. It's there for the duration of that policy. But of course, that is not fitting for all types of data maybe. So we have the governance mode as well, where you actually can assign to users that can approve to delete or change that data. So for a standard user like you and me, we are not able to delete or edit that data. But if you allow that, you can have some super users that are allowed to change the policy for that data. For example, you're storing data for 10 years, for example, on that platform, you want to lock it. But during those 10 years, maybe you need to change storage platform. So you need to kind of unlock that data in some way or form to move that data to another object storage platform and then lock the data again, for example. That can be a use case or applications. And since this is API based, it's really simple to write this into your code as well. So if you're doing some custom code in your application to archive some data, it's really easy to integrate. And of course, we need to protect the devices and the storage itself as well. So Cloudian runs basically on any x86 server platform with some disk and some CPU and some memory. We're running a Linux operating system, and you can say that, okay, you can just get root access and then you can delete those data, but you really can't because we harden that operating system. We lock that operating system down, disabling the root, only allowing predefined, pre-certified commands to be run. So even if you hack the system and have Worm running on the system, you can't log in as root or through a backdoor in Linux and ruin that data. So the only way you can delete that data is physically break into the data center with a sledgehammer and a huge magnet and destroy those disks itself. And of course, everything is audit logged as well.
That's good actually, because I think this should be implemented already from day one. Even if you're not running warm technology, so you're not
Absolutely
attacking your S3 storage at all, because it just time matters when ransomware comes out for Linux as well, not only Windows basically.
Absolutely. So we recommend everybody to activate this on their system. When we do a Cloudian installation, we usually just do it so the customer don't know they really have an option. But I always say that we recommend to do this, lock the system down, be as secure as possible. Yeah. Another way to protect your data is, of course, by role-based access. So since we are API-based, we are Amazon S3-based. We also support the Amazon IAM, Identity Access Management APIs. So that's fully integrated into our platform. And this allows you to set kind of granular access to, for example, a bucket or to an object within a bucket. So let's say I'm going to share a folder with Cristie, and there we have some pictures that we took when we had our partner training, for example, because we are going to create a blog about that, the partner training. I can share that, but in my bucket, I also have a million objects that I don't want Cristie to have access to. So I can create an IAM policy that allows him to only read and write to those specific objects I want to share with him. And this can be used across organizations, across customers, everything you need to do. And you can also do this through the API, so you can create just-in-time authentication for your application. So your application only are allowed to read and write data when it's absolutely needed, and so on. Next one. And here you can see a bit of more of the detail, and it's based on what we call an IAM user and IAM group. So a user can, of course, be a member of an IAM group, and you can have multiple users within a group. And you connect the IAM policies that's actually telling you what you are allowed or not allowed to do into that user or group in the system. So it's a really granular way to control access patterns to the actual data within your system. Next. And here again, an example where, like I said, we are sharing a bucket, for example, between me and Cristie. Cristie should not be allowed to read some of the data in it, but maybe he's allowed to upload some data to me. I want Cristie to give me a report or something like that. I can easily give him access to do that, or choose application or whatever. So let's say another example, you are the IT manager or the operating team, and you have created a Kubernetes environment, and you have some app developers sitting there, but you really don't want them to control the storage backend. So you are just creating the right resources for them to be able to integrate their application and leverage that S3 object storage. So for example, only allowed to work within their own buckets, only allowed to upload a certain amount of data. You can control all of these parameters through the identity access management APIs in the system. Lastly, I want to touch upon single sign-on, LDAP integration, stuff like that. So in Cloudian, access to the user interface can, of course, be LDAP integrated per a group per 10 in Cloudian. Everything in Cloudian is per bucket level and is 100% multi-tenant. So single sign-on can also be a great thing to ensure security, because if you are coming into the network from a place outside, you will not be allowed to log in because your user will not exist because it's not integrated into the single sign-on policies, for example. So we have a lot of opportunities and security stuff here that you will have control on yourself that you are not able to control in the public cloud.
Johan, any questions?
It seems like you guys have been really, really thorough, and there's probably a lot of questions, but I don't have any right now. So, but if you do have questions, don't hesitate to contact me, Christian, or Ole afterwards. But not any questions right now so far.
And I think to just quickly summarize a little bit, Ole, I think that there's a lot of use cases that, this is just a few examples we gave out at the moment. But I think that to give you tips and tricks how to start with object storage is that looking in the applications you already have in your VM, in your environment at the moment. So, for example, a simple thing like a database maybe have a functionality that save all the blobs into S3. That could be a use case, and because object storage could be extremely big, and you can grow to sort of unlimited sizes. That means that it's to actually create a great TCO and ROI on object storage is to actually find multiple different use cases in the organization. That means do not only looking at the backup piece, do not only looking at one application. Open up the dialogue inside the organization and ask how many people want to look at object storage for your application, and you probably get a lot of values and a lot of functionalities out there that actually can help you out to start working on S3. And if you just lifting one of the rocks, I guarantee you can see object storage support already in the latest version of the application. Ole, do you want to give any more tips how to start working quickly with S3?
Like you mentioned, it's really a multi-purpose storage system. So it's not like you did with your DDoS appliances for backup. You can only use this for backup storage. Object storage is really mass storage for everything unstructured data. So as many use cases as you can put into it, the cheaper it will be for you, and the more benefit and the more value of your data you can get. So look into your use cases, applications, talk to the application's owner. How can we create more value of the data we're actually storing?
And open up for the whole organization, not only the IT, open up for everyone, for the financial department, for your commercial department, for your executive department, whatever department it is. Basically, everyone may have opportunities for object storage. As more people you go for the same solution, as cheaper it will be for you, basically.
Yes, and by that, we want to thank you all for attending this Tech Talk, and we also want to give a quick push for our next Tech Talk. It's on the 21st of April, and then we're going to talk about cyber resiliency. We're going to talk about some real use cases, and we're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to prevent it from happening to you. So with that, thank you guys, and thank you to everyone listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.